Okay, this video is going to cover tables 2.4 and 2.5 from not groundwork, for grammar and context. Unfortunately, I don't have my book with me right now, so I don't know the exact page number, but if you open up to chapter 2, you should be able to find it. So the first thing that we want to talk about is the difference between the simple present tense and the present continuous. And in the last chapter, in chapter 1, we talked about the simple present tense. And we talked about the simple present tense basically having two main meanings. The first one being that it's a general truth or custom. So the example here is most people have a computer. So that's a general truth. The second meaning we talked about was as a habit. So grandma often sends emails, often emails her friends. So this is a habit of grandma, something that she does often. And we said that with habits, many times they'll come with frequency words or frequency expressions because that shows a repeated action. Moving on to the present continuous, which we talked about earlier, we said that there is three different meanings for the present continuous. The first one is the one that we're most common with, which means an action that's in progress right now. So for example, you're writing so slowly. We're talking about an action that's ongoing right at this present moment. The second one is a long-term action in progress. So what that means is it's an action that that is happening that will take a long time. And by a long time we mean, days, weeks, years to complete. So Marco is learning to drive. That's not something that's happening at one point, but is happening, will stop, is happening, will stop, will happening, and stop. And it's going to go on for a long time. The last meaning we talked about was a change in behavior in society, or a change in society. So the first two meanings, just to review, the first two meanings are specific to some specific people. So in the first one, it's you is the specific person. In the second one, Marco is the specific person. But with a change in behavior, you're talking about change in behavior in society. You're not talking about any one specific person. You're talking about all the people in a society. So all the people in a city, or all the people in a country, or all the people in a culture. So the example here is people are living longer these days. So what I want you to do is to just take a moment and pause this video and decide whether you should use the simple present tense or the present continuous for the following questions, and then pause it, and we'll come back and look at the answers. All right, so let's take a look at the answers to those sentences. So the first one should be, I never eat meat. So this should be in the simple present tense because it's a habit, right? I'm gaining too much weight. This is in the present continuous. This is an action that is long-term in progress. So it's happening, and then it stops, and happening, then it stops, and happening, then it stops, but it's continuing for a month, a week, a year. Then we have, I'm trying to lose weight. The same sort of idea, the opposite of gaining weight, but this is present continuous and long-term in progress. I never make mistakes. This again is simple present tense. It's a habit. I'm taking 18 credits this semester. This would be present continuous, so this is something that's long-term in progress. And then she takes a vacation every December. This is simple present tense. This would be a habit. All right, so moving on to the next section, which is talking about action and non-action verbs. Now, let me just say one thing about action and non-action verbs. It's not always easy to know what is an action verb and what is a non-action verb. I'll give you some brief definitions, but there's certainly some times where there are words that in English are considered to be non-action, but in other languages are considered to be action. So I found that ESL students often get confused about this. So what I would say if you do get confused about this is I would focus not on trying to guess whether a word is action or non-action by figuring out what definition it fits, but rather memorizing some of the common non-action verbs, because the majority of verbs are action. So if we just sort of remember the ones that aren't, that will be a little bit easier for us. All right, so the first to give you a definition, an action verb is something a person, animal, or thing can do, either mental or physical. So in the first example, we have John is reading a book. We could say that this is either a mental activity or a physical activity. You know, it's our eyes are actually moving and reading. The dog is biting my hand. That's definitely a physical thing. And the computer is sitting on the table. That's a physical thing too, in terms of you can put the computer on there and it will be sitting on the table. But non-action verbs fall into these four different categories. The first category is a state or a condition. So when we talk about a state or condition, what we are doing is describing how something is. We're not talking about any change going on. We're describing how something is at the present moment. So in that case we have I am tired, right? I'm describing how I feel. He seems angry. Again, we're just describing how the person feels, or how the person is, the condition that the person is in at that point in time. The second meaning is for feelings, meaning emotions, or senses. Okay? So they love hot dogs. So the feeling in that case is love, right? The second one is he smells bad. In this case, we're not talking about him using his nose, but we're talking about, what he smells like when you sit next to him, how he smells. The third type of non-action verb is to indicate ownership or possession. So the first example here is we own 2 cars. So this is ownership, right? That I bought those things and as a result I own them, or we own them. And the second one is I have a dog. So this one again is ownership or possession. Possess means basically to have something. So let's take a look at some verbs here. And what I encourage you to do is to have your book open and then decide whether the following verbs are action or non-action, and try to focus on those 3 categories that we talked about of non-action verbs. So the first one was a state or a condition. The second one was a feeling or a sense. And then the last one was ownership or possession. Okay, so write down either A for action or NA for non-action, and then we'll look at the answers. So go ahead and pause the video and do that. Okay, so moving along, let's look at the first one. Like is non-action. This is a feeling or emotion. Seem is also non-action. This describes a condition. Run is action. Know is non-action. This is a difficult one, but it is describing a state. Either you know something or you don't know something. There's no action going on there. Need is also a state or a condition. Either you need something or you don't need something. Okay, there's no action going on there. Type is an action, right? Typing on the computer. Believe is non-action. Okay, it's a state or a condition. Either you believe something or you don't believe something. There's no action going on. Want is also non-action. In this case, it's an emotion, right, or a feeling. Or we could also say it's also a state or condition. Want and need are sort of the same thing. Smell can be both. It can be non-action or action, and we'll talk about that later. For right now, you probably should have written down non-action because this is describing a sense. Study is action. Read is action. Hate is non-action. That's a feeling. Know is non-action. That's a state or a condition. Sleep is an action. Help is an action. And then let's move on to this next group. So the next group here is talking about these sense words. Now in that previous exercise we said that smell could be action and non-action. Well, with most sense words there's two forms of the word. There are sense words that mean non-action when they're basically describing a state or a condition. So if you look at the picture down at the bottom, it says you smell bad, right? That's non-action. It's describing the state or the condition. But these sense words can also be action when they describe an actual action. So in the second picture it says she is smelling the flowers. In that case it's an action. She's actually doing something with her nose. In the first one you're not doing anything. We're just describing the state or condition. Okay, so there's a number of words that have both, and you should keep these in mind. So these four here, smell, feel, look, and taste, can be both action and non-action. So it depends on the situation. Are we talking about the state or condition, or are we talking about the action? And we'll do some practice with this in class because it can be a little confusing. The other word that can also have more than one meaning is have. Now we said that have is non-action when it means ownership, when you own something. So if you look down, when you look down at the bottom, it's, I have a car, right? In that case, it's ownership. We can also say that have is non-action when it means a relationship. So like I have a sister, okay? This is describing a relationship, and in that case it's non-action. Or it could be when it's describing an illness, like I have a cold. This is considered to be non-action. However, when have means to experience something or to do something, it's an action verb. So for example, you could say I'm having a good time, right? You're experiencing a good time. In that case it's non-action. Or you could say I'm having dinner, right, when you're eating or drinking something. Or I'm having a drink. In that case it's action. Okay, and again this can be a little bit tricky, so we'll take some time and review this in class. So bring any questions that you have to class, and we'll see you then. Take care. Bye.